first matchup of the day on Saturday, 1:08 p.m. Eastern on TBS and True TV. I guess it's being showed on both of them. Tigers and Guardians, the third divisional rematch in this whole thing. The Tigers have not announced a starter. I don't really think that matters because they're not big into the whole starter thing. Other than Tariq Skubal, they don't really care about their pitching. AJ Hinch called it chaos for Game 2 against Houston. Tanner Bybee going for the Guardians, 12-8, 3.47 ERA on the year. Teams that have seen each other a ton in the postseason. How do you feel about when these teams match back up in the postseason? Who has the advantage? Is it the team that won in the regular season, or is it just whichever team has better momentum at the moment?
As far as that goes, I would probably say whichever team has better momentum at the moment, is as closely as these two teams are on paper. The Tigers went 6-7 versus the Guardians in the regular season, and they have a lot of momentum right now. Yeah. And if last season and the season before that is any indication, the break, people like to say that the week-long break between playing makes their bats go cold. So if that takes place for the Guardians, then that's not really a good sign for them, even with Detroit throwing Captain Chaos in a few of the games.
Interesting note on that. 6-7 record against Cleveland this year, but a +10 run differential. They scored 60 runs against Cleveland. They allowed only 50. So some of those, that run differential is obviously impacted a little bit by some close losses. They got walked off by Cleveland 5-4 back in May. They lost another one 2-1. But then, they also had some dominant wins later. There was a 10-1 win in mid-July. So questions about it feels like a lot of the wins for Detroit were bigger than the losses. And given the momentum of Detroit, given some of the offensive frustrations we've seen from Cleveland this year, it kind of feels like maybe Detroit, between the momentum and all that, Detroit should be favored against the Cleveland Guardians, which is wild to think because this is, the Guardians are number 2 seed, and they clinched this whole thing rather early, which unfortunately also means they haven't had to play really competitive games in a little while. And like you said, they got that break. And last year, everybody but the Astros who had the break lost. I believe the Astros are actually the only team in the last 2 seasons who have had that break and then lost. Turns out they probably should have played a little better and had a break this year if they wanted to still be in the postseason.
Correct. Okay. The Guardians, I think they were the other team with the Mets that had the most come from behind wins this season. They had 42 come from behind wins. Ooh. And in 1-run games, they are 26-19. Which it helps when your closer is Emmanuel Clase. But
your bullpen in general is fantastic. But Emmanuel Clase is a giant part of that and should be a top 5 Cy Young finisher in the American League. Might not be because voters are weird, but should be, right?